Lights out, green flag, here we go.
And here they come, battling into the third of the final lap.
You pay for the whole seat, but you're only going to need the edge.
Here we go, half a lap to go, and who's it going to be?
The Thunder Road Podcast, telling the stories of the South Texas racers from the past and present.
Hello, my name is James Parks, and welcome to Season 2 of the Thunder Road Podcast. Season 1 was a success, and thanks to you, the viewers and the listeners. We're in a different setting today. We're at the Petrini Apache Race Shop. We're bringing this to you to try to, as you would say, spice it up a little bit. I would like to take the time to thank our sponsors. Proline Fabrication, 112 Bodies, Top Hat Signs and Designs, and of course, S&S Monuments. And on the first episode of Season 2, we have a candid conversation with Tommy Wynd and Sam Duncan. You're going to want to tune in, folks. This one's a little spicy. On this episode of the Thunder Road Podcast, we have Sam Duncan and Tommy Wynd, some local racing. I'm going to call y'all legends. I'm going to go ahead and do that. I know y'all probably aren't comfortable with that, but that's the way it's going to be. Both of you guys have raced a little bit of dirt and asphalt, I'm assuming. No dirt?
No dirt.
No dirt.
Nope.
Well, man, that's hard to believe.
Nope, ain't got no dirt car.
Ever?
Well, actually, no. The only time we went to Pleasanton and ran the shit boxes.
Mm-hmm. Well, you ran it.
Yeah.
Well, you got some dirt experience.
10 laps overheating. That was it.
That's racing.
But anyway, yeah, that's racing.
That's racing.
Yeah.
So both of you guys started early 90s. Is that about right?
Yeah, that's true.
Are both of y'all from the Corpus area?
Yep. Yeah, both
Got here as soon as you could anyway? Yep. One of y'all's from the Bluff, for sure?
I grew up out there, half and half. Grew up on the west side, actually, more than anything.
All right. So you're West Side Bluffian.
Yeah, my dad lived in the Bluff all my life, so yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Tommy?
I live in the Bluff.
In the Bluff. Holy hell. Did y'all bring sand in with you?
No.
I left it outside.
Right. Left it outside, dude. Dudley made him shake it.
Tommy, tell me a little bit about yourself. Tell me a little bit about you, what you do, where you've come from, and how you got involved in this circle track racing stuff.
The circle track, we got involved, I guess it was back when it was Speedway Park, maybe. Going out there, I was probably 13, 14
Going out there and
old.
watching?
Yep, and I was like, man, this is something I want to do, you know.
I have to do this.
Yeah, I have to do it. And, you know, went out there and all the time, you know, watching the race. You would watch the circle track, and then I think they had mud trucks going on,
trucks,
motocross,
dirt bikes.
A little bit of everything.
Yeah, a little bit of everything. Had a beer garden, go-karts.
Pretty good concerts.
Yeah, good concerts. And I was like, man, I like this, you know. So I think it's back in 92. Yeah. Bought a car from Jack Bennett. Oh, what do we call them back then? Pure stocks?
Yeah, pure stocks.
Just like a little stalker type car?
No.
Yeah. Yeah.
No?
No.
Not even that?
No.
They still had chrome on them?
No, they were way beyond a stock car.
All right.
Because that was a Firebird, right?
Yep.
That was the first one. That was way beyond a stock car.
Okay.
Matter of fact, when I first looked at that car, I thought, how are they letting it run in this class? That it was the guy that built it knew how to bypass the rules a little bit.
Gray area.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. Stock frame rails, they're there.
Ish.
They were there.
They were there.
They just had pipe that tied everything together. Yeah.
It is what it is?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
All right. And what was your draw? What was your draw to the racing scene?
I grew up out there. My dad, I was going there as a little kid, and then my dad had a buddy, Steve Copeland, that ran out there late models for years. And so we would go. He lived behind the high school in the Bluff, and we'd go over there and hang out in the bars in the Bluff with him when I was a kid, my dad. And then so the first time I got to be in a car was he had a 55 Chevy that was a super stock. And he took me for a ride around the track, and I was about 14. And I was like, this is the shit. You know, I want to do this. And then so from then on, I just kept going. You know, even my dad didn't go, you know, I would go, you know, because I had a driver's license at 14 years old because my dad had some heart attacks. So I could always drive to the track and do whatever I wanted.
Yeah.
I was a spoiled little shit. But
Bit of a hellraiser?
yeah, a lot of that. And so then, and I guess 90, I bought that car from Stephen Carpenter and him, and put it together and started racing. And since then, you know, I was married to, at that time, actually, I was married to Bruce Beddoes' sister-in-law at the time, to Nancy. So, and
Small world.
yeah, it really was. Well, you know, I didn't have a car at first, and then we'd go out there, and I was just dating her at the time. We'd go out there, and then that's a family drunk affair with him. You all sit in the stand, you get pretty twisted, and watch Bruce race.
Yeah.
You know, well, then I bought
He
it.
just happened to race.
Yeah, he just happened to, but it was entertaining. I mean, you know, it was a lot of, even grandma would go out there, you know, and so it was a lot of fun. And then I bought a car and we moved to Pearsall, and then I would come from Pearsall to race.
Just to race?
Just to race. Yeah. I worked for her dad there at an oil field company, and I would come just to race. He would make sure I had some oil tool to deliver or something, you know, on Saturday. So I could
he
come
made
race.
sure he got it lined up for you.
Yeah, had it pretty lined up. It was titty bars on Friday night with Steven Witchy.
Yeah.
Oh, Steven.
And then
Whatever it took.
it was fun. It was a good time. He was a good guy.
So it seems like both of y'all might have started around the same time. Did you guys know each other? Did y'all meet each other at the track? Y'all knew each other outside of the track? Like, what
we
was
met at
y'all's
the track.
relationship?
Yeah, I met at the track.
We met at the track.
Under good terms or bad terms?
Good times.
No, good times.
We became really good friends actually pretty quick. I don't even know honestly how we first met at the track, but we became pretty good friends. And people would really, I mean, if you ask most people if me and Tommy were together, it was probably going to be some kind of issue somewhere, because like the energy we had was like usually hyper, to say the least. To say the least.
Yeah.
You know,
I was going to ask how many Red Bulls you had before you got here.
I don't drink Red Bulls. I'm an energetic old man.
I guess so.
But we would have a lot of fun.
No.
You know, we raced together. We worked on the cars. I mean,
let's talk about that. Let's talk about the fun that you guys had, because a lot of the younger folk that are going to be watching this and listening to this podcast, they don't understand what CC Speedway was. And we can only try to explain to them what it was or what it may have been in y'all's eyes. So tell us a little bit about what was CC Speedway. Tell us a little bit about the atmosphere. Tell us a little bit about what the cars were, because most of the youngsters now are thinking of a factory stock. They're thinking of a limited stock car or a full-blown late model. Tell us what CC Speedway was all about.
when I started, so I'd bought that Firebird, put it together. I knew nothing about racing. You know, I wanted to learn it myself. So I bought the car, we put it together. I bought a $150 Firebird and pulled the drivetrain out and put in this car. And that was my factory stock, pure stock, whatever they called them back then. And I went to Donnie Yoakum because he sold tires and wheels. So I bought
They were recaps, right?
Yeah, Towel City
yeah.
So I bought 8 tires and wheels from Donnie. Had no clue what stagger was. You know, I said, hey, I want 4 right sides, 4, left sides. So they mounted them up for me, and I went and put them on my car. And I went out racing, and we had fire suits were flight suits from the Army Surf Plus on SPID, and bucket seats and a regular seatbelt.
Just like a lap belt.
A lap belt.
Lap belt.
You know, and it was so entertaining. Bruce asked me one night, because the car was so loose. It was like you drove one-handed, and you had to have your arm on the bar just to keep in the seat. So I drove one-handed because the car was always loose. And Bruce says, hey, what's wrong with that other hand on there? And I told him, if you can drive it, you can get in it. Because I got to hang on, because I'll be out of the seat, I'll be on the other side, But we had 30 cars start every night in that class. It was a huge class.
And what the features would last.
The features
couple
would last,
hours.
Yeah, they were forever.
2 or 3 hours for a feature.
You depending on where you started, of course, you had to work your way up through the slower cars. And even though it was my first year, my car was pretty fast for what it was. And I was pretty rough. I'll put it that way. If you didn't move, I was going to move you.
Is that where you got your nickname?
No, it started out. So that started it changed over at the racetrack.
It transitions or just changed over?
It transitioned to a different meaning at the racetrack.
Okay.
I got that. So I have a friend, Gilbert Sanchez. His dad and them used to own Jay's Truck and Trailer. He drag races.
Okay.
Well, when I was young, I had a 75 Ford Maverick. There was a V8 car, and it was 3-speed. Well, so I can shift really well. So I had my, you have the rev boxes now?
Yes.
Well, I had my homemade rev box. It was called floating valves. So I would put the clutch to the floor, hold the gas to the floor till it would float the valves, then I would sidestep the clutch. And I blew up more 3-speeds in that car than you would ever imagine. So his dad started
So
calling
you're the
me.
reason I can't find 3-speeds.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. His dad would start calling me Slammin' Sam. So that's just where that started. Then when I went to the racetrack, it got a whole new meaning because, I'm going to slam you out of the way if you didn't want to move, And then I had a temper too, so that didn't help out a whole lot. But it was fun, And the first years were a lot of.
But that temper made you. That temper, your attitude, your persona.
Yeah.
Made you who you are.
Yeah, I didn't, and I didn't hang around with a lot of people. the first, with the DMs, but they were real. I mean, like I said, you knew Scott.
Yeah.
Well, they were real mild tempered.
I don't think they were from around here. Were
No,
they?
they're from Wisconsin or Nebraska, somewhere.
Okay.
They were real mild tempered.
Yeah.
Except for Dave, his dad, we'd go to the bars and his old man, he'd catch him with $1 in his thing, the old man's went up there drunk, so it was all fun, but I'm sure Scott really didn't want to know about that. But anyway,
It's the good stuff.
yeah, it was good. It was fun, And so I'd met them, and then, like I say, the next year, for some reason, I sold my Firebird, and I bought a car from them that was a real shitbox. And that Oldsmobile, yeah, that was a real shitbox. And that's when that next year I met Tommy and like David Simpson. You know him?
David Simpson.
I know the name. Yes, sir.
Yeah, David, and we were all really good friends. And I think I actually met them because Bob was a officer out there in Cal Island. He was a captain or something, right? Lieutenant, and he would always go to David's, and that's how I met Bob. And I'm assuming that's how I met Tommy.
Yeah.
Was the same way. We all became really good friends.
Crazy. The atmosphere always seemed to be, from what I remember, there was always something happening.
Oh, yeah.
Whether it was in the stands or on the track or in the pits, there was always something kicking off.
All the time.
All the time.
And I don't know what it is about the electricity that the Speedway had, because I don't really see that at a lot of the other tracks. A lot of the other tracks, it's just a racetrack. I see that excitement and I feel that intensity like when I go to the Chili Bowl.
Yeah.
I feel it there. But as a kid, like when I would come to Corpus, like I had that same feel. But the pits, like we discussed earlier, the pits were on the other side of the track, that kind of stuff. And then when I was doing my dwarf car stuff on the weekends that we weren't traveling with the dwarf cars, I would go to the Speedway and watch you guys race. We would sell parts at Bartell's, and then I would go see you guys race. And as we were discussing earlier, I'd be driving down 44 and there'd be a tow chain, a chain with a bar, somebody towing a car to the race. It was just, that's how people got there. Wasn't a lot of money wrapped up in all the cars. I'm sure there was some money tied up in some of the cars, but people just wanted to get there and race. Yeah. That's what I felt. People just wanted to be a part of that show.
Me, I like to drive. I mean, that was the fun to me.
Yeah.
But like as a fan, I went because like I like to see, the racing first off, but of course the fighting and the wrecks. Because when I was a kid, in the pits were in turn one, you always went down there after a good feature wreck.
Yeah.
You always went down there because there was going to be a fight right there.
Something was going to happen.
All the time. And it was always, like I say, I grew up with Steve Copeland. Well, Steve Copeland was a big man. He was a badass. And he would pretty much jerk you out of the car and whoop you.
He was ready to go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He was ready. Any time he was ready to go.
And an awesome man, But so to me, it's always been the fun. And the stands were always electric, like you're saying.
Yeah.
There was always
a different feel.
There was always action. I mean, on the track, something was. I think there was not a lot, but certain drivers kind of didn't jive together, and when they got on the track, I mean,
you couldn't get away from each other.
Yeah, you hit me. Oh no, you're in the wall.
Well, even me and Tommy, we were friends, and we've had some pretty good wrecks on the track.
Oh yeah.
I mean, stuff happens.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just the way it works. But
in those confines of that track, it was going to happen.
Oh yeah, of course.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's but the first few years, like we would go, I would get out of my car and run up to see the hobby stocks, because you had Chuck Barber and Larry and
Troy Bird.
Wayne Norrell would run one, a bunch of guys from out of town came and ran the hobby stocks. And that was a really cool car, class.
When I was young, I remember Troy Bird. There was always a car coming off the corner with tires smoking, looked like John Force. And it was Troy Bird.
Yeah, and his yellow. Yeah. And either a Chevelle or a Camaro.
It just seemed like lap after lap.
Is he the one that one time, did you hear that story when he soaked his tires in benzene? Was that him? Mm-hmm. And he rolled out on the track to go practice, and the tires just came apart.
Yeah. Because he sold the Diamondback.
We all got cancer.
Yeah. He sold the Diamondback racing treads.
Okay.
While Donnie sold, those were first, and then Donnie brought in the Tau Cities. And Troy Bird would be out there just sideways, like you're saying, just blowing the tires off. And he was pretty innovative in his day as far as for a young guy that raced. I know
he might have been too smart for his own good.
Well, he was.
Yes.
Because I know one of the rules, they told him he couldn't cut his roof. So he cut the bottom off the body. And dropped the whole body down, Hey, that's, that's intelligence right there.
Yeah.
That's pretty, that's a way around the rules.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
There was guys like him, Dan. Dan was a guy, I love watching Dan race. Dan, Greg Sr.,
Yeah.
You know, them guys, because if Greg Sr. and Dan were close, it was going to probably end up ugly.
Neither one of them would give an inch.
Not an inch.
But they'd take a mile if you gave it to them.
You know,
You give them an inch or take it a mile.
I've raced against both of them. And the one thing both of them are similar in is when you look back, if you see them in the car, whether, you know, you're racing with them or you just see them in the car, they're both up on the wheel. I mean, like, and you're like, holy cow, how do you drive like that? You know, but they're muscling the cars around, you know, that's old school, you know, so it was always entertaining.
That's how they drove. That was the feel that they wanted. And they probably had the seat of the pants feel.
Oh,
So
yeah.
even if the car wasn't perfect, they were able to compensate with their driving style.
I always told a bunch of the guys that to watch, you want to see it, like they would always say, like Greg Jr.'s car. Oh, it's perfect. No, it's not. Let's go right here in the stands, in the pit stands. I'll tell him, watch his hands. You know, he goes in and his hands are, you know, I said, that car's not perfect. He's driving that car.
Yeah.
You know, well, he's illegal. No, man. I know his car. It's not illegal. He's driving the hell out of that car. Greg Jr. could drive.
Yeah.
You know, Greg Sr. too. You know, but we always that was where the electricity was, though. You know, watching them races and knowing, you know, so and so's. You know, with these guys get together, it's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
You
That
know,
brought the electricity, as you said.
all the time. And then of course they had Romco back then. And you know, if you didn't like any other class, going to see the late models or even the pro sedans.
Tell us a little bit about the Romcos running on that little bull ring.
We sat in 17-degree weather to watch a feature.
Yep. 17 degrees outside watching the Bronco
Yeah.
race.
It was cold, but you know, because they're so fast, you know, I mean, and you get 20 of those late models on there, you know, and
You might have 10 finish.
yeah, and you're amazed that they actually can finish a first lap.
Yeah.
You know, like
And they
I know
had that sound. They had that tone to them.
I know Bruce back in 90,
Which Bruce?
Beto,
Okay.
he built that Lumina. He took the Camaro and put a Lumina body on it and watered it up the first Romco race. You know, wiped the whole body off the car first night out, you know, and then of course old man Witherspoon was the magic man with the fiberglass and put it back together. But you know, the Romco was just something you had to go see, even if I wasn't racing.
Yeah.
You know, I've worked at Valero for 34 years, so you can hear them from my job. So now, my boss don't work there, so yeah, I snuck off, and I would leave work and go watch the races and have my radio. So if they called me, I'll be there in a minute, you know. And that
I'm on
was
the other side of the plant. I'll be right there.
yeah, and that was years. You know, that was
check my
years ago.
badge at
That
the
was
gate.
that was the first 2 or 3. Well, we didn't have badges then.
No.
No, the gates were always open, so you just drove in and out. But you know, and I would take but that was 25 years ago. You know, but it was fun. I mean,
How about some late model stuff? TIDA. You did a little bit of TIDA racing. Tell us a little bit about that adventure for you.
That was an adventure. It was fun. You know, I raced, I think, a couple races here in Corpus. Went to San Antonio a couple of times.
Where'd you get this car at?
I bought it from Ross Stafford.
Stafford. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So Ross had the car, and you decided I have to have that.
Yep.
I have to have this excitement in my life.
So, you know, me and my old man, we got the car and raced here. I think I did all right here. It was totally different, you know, being in a stalker.
Yeah.
Then went to San Antonio, ran up there. It was doing good. I think I was behind Bruce maybe. It was towards the end of the race and passing the car, and he came up in the fence, bent the whole clip. I mean, you hit the wall in San Antonio. You're
Game over.
Yeah, you're done.
Get 2 records.
Yeah, it bent the whole clip over. So we brought the car back and fixed it, and I think I took it to the speedway. I took the tires off of it, changed the motor, because at the time the class we could that was there, we could run that type of car. So I put the smaller tires on it, changed the motor, and took it out there and won the feature.
yeah, you could run a late model stock because it was a stock clip car.
Yeah.
You know, but they were back then. That was the late models. But yeah, he put the Tau Cities on it, and
Got her done.
Got her done.
Yeah.
Got her done.
yeah, that was a pretty nice car.
You kept that car for a while?
No, yeah, I kept it for a while, and then we built, I think in 2000, my old man built another car.
The one that he bought from Larry.
Yes.
That
bought
Camaro, the old BFI car?
The old BFI car he bought from Larry Smith, and he did the whole thing, put a aftermarket body on it, and I don't even remember. They've changed the name so many times in them classes.
Yeah, that was a Super Street, I think is what they were calling them back then.
And
So who were you primarily racing with when you're running the super streets?
Which one?
When you were racing this car that you're talking about now?
Who was out there? Kyle Carter.
Kyle Clayton Carter, me,
Doty? Was
Doty
racing back then?
sometimes,
Doty sometime.
Greg Jr.
Greg Jr.
Chuck got a car there. Well, Chuck came later.
And me and Josh Comstock.
Josh
me and him
Comstock.
got into it a couple of times.
So was junior and senior racing at the same time
No.
at that
No.
point?
No.
Okay.
Junior was.
No, Greg Sr. didn't race until a few years later. I'd bought their house, and so we had all the stuff over there, and I had some surgery. So, and then I worked shift work too, so I couldn't race. So Greg Sr., I told him, hey, we'll drive my car, and that was scary. Yeah.
Scary because of what he was doing in the car, or
No, it was-
scary
well-
because you couldn't be there all the time? Or?
Yeah, have somebody else drive my car was kind of weird for me.
Yeah.
Because I put a lot of sweat and stuff into it, and I liked working on it myself. I didn't like other people working on it, so he would drive it when I was at work. Like one night he got T-boned, and of course my ex-wife calls me and she says, "Hey, your car's pretty bad." What? So I get home in the morning, and I unload it and put it in the garage, and I stayed up all day tearing it apart so I could fix it, make sure it was good. He was going to come fix it, but my curiosity got the best of me. I had to tear it apart.
You had that drive. You had
Yeah.
that want to.
There was a bunch of people at that time that we ran against. I mean, because I think the whole time that we've both been out there, other than the first year I raced, we raced against each other the whole time. I mean, if I wasn't working, we were racing against each other.
Tommy, you mentioned your old man. Was your old man involved in racing?
Oh, yeah.
Is that how you got involved in it for the most part?
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he was a big part of it. And then I think back in 2000, he moved to Vegas. And then when he came back, I was pretty much done racing, I think he came back in 2010 or 11, something like that.
Yeah, Bob was really into it. They had a shop first with Harold, I guess, and then on right down from where you're at, they had a shop there on Leopard, and they had their shop, their cars there. And I mean, Bob was really into it. I mean,
Yeah.
he was hardcore there for a long time.
Yeah.
When he built that car, I guess that was a Monte Carlo bodied car, late model Monte Carlo body. That was a beautiful car. I mean, for a street stock too, it was going to be a super street or whatever they called them at the time. You're like, damn, that's a nice car,
Now, when y'all were running super streets or street stocks back then, they were on racing tire, or y'all were on street tire at that point? When I met you guys with Chuck Perry and all you guys were racing, it was a street tire.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dan actually was working for Donnie, and he went in and changed the rules. They went in and changed the class because the class was getting a little bit out of hand. We were back to running almost like close to late models against stock cars, And so they said, okay, we're going to do this. No more weight jacks. No, no more racing tires. We're going to go to this 225 is the biggest street tire you can run. And so I was lucky. Greg Jr. wasn't so lucky. He had a Lumen at the time, and he got mad through the trash can. Yeah, I have to ask him about that. But so we ended up building Gregory a car. But I was able to take my weight jacks out and put shocks up and bushings through the holes
To the hole.
to be able to run my car. And so the first year on the street tires, like my car was way fast.
That was in 2000, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was like
because that's when I built
that's when you had that other car.
the car the first night out, me and Greg.
Yeah.
In the wall.
Yeah. Yeah, because matter of fact,
It was Greg's fault, by the way.
I have a picture of somewhere on my Facebook of you and Greg, or you posted it not too long ago, where I'm standing there. I had surgery, and Greg Jr. was driving my car, and Tommy's car was like up on the Camaro. It was when they had the Camaro. It was up on the wall like that. I'm just looking at my car going, wow.
That's when they changed. They got rid of the weight jacks and all that
Yeah.
stuff because I had just built that car,
Yep.
and that was the first night out for that car.
Yeah, that car was pretty fast. That Camaro you had the red one was pretty fast.
I always remember him being in the number 83 Camaro. I don't really remember any.
Yeah, it was
any
88
other.
before
It's 88, and then that car. Who ended up that Troy Vellen
Troy
bought that
Vellen
car
that
from
car.
me.
That car was pretty fast.
Yeah.
So let's hear some stories. So obviously I've brought y'all here today. We talked a little bit about you individually and about your past and that stuff. But let's hear some stories of the CC Speedway days. Some of the rivalries, maybe some of the tempers, some of the antics. There's good times and bad times. So let's talk to the listeners about those stories.
Well, back then, we drank a lot. First off,
But you were very thirsty.
I'm very thirsty. After the races, on the way to the track, you had to have a case of beer, and that's for me. That's not for Tommy. That wasn't for anybody. That was my beer. And he
Did you tow with the chain in the bar?
Nope, I had a trailer.
Trailer.
No, we had trailers.
They would tell us the last one to leave closes the gate.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
And we would drink a lot of beer, it was a lot of fun, but during as the nights, progressed, because you get there and it's hot as heck out, and of course we didn't drink until after the races, but.
Except for the case of beer to get there.
Well, no, we got that on the way. That was for afterwards. You had to have the ice down because, but we always parked, I always parked right where the old pit shed is.
Yeah.
I always parked in that first spot the whole time I raced. For however reason I ended up there, I always ended up in that spot. And then Tommy would park a little further away, actually, over by the scales. Mm-hmm. And so it was always walking back and forth, across. And it depends on who you park next to. Me and John Kaminsky got into it one night. And, of course, his son there says that John whooped my butt, but, that didn't happen. But anyway, he comes in.
The truth comes out.
Well, you knew my brother. You knew my brother Daniel, right? So did you ever meet Matt's uncle?
No.
Daryl. He was a pretty cool guy. I mean, he really was. He was kind of odd here and there, but he was a nice guy.
Yeah.
I will never say nothing bad about Daryl because he was a really nice guy. But so me and John had a little squabble, and he was parked next to me. And John's coming pulling up, and Daryl, I'm already mad. I'm waiting. And Daryl says, "Man, I don't want none. I don't want none." Okay. Well, the minute John pulls up, John stands up in his race car for some reason. Back against the roof. So next thing I look, I have him by his face shield and I'm hitting him through his helmet and feel something go by me. Well, Daryl was fixing to hit me from behind when my brother Daniel tackles him across the car, and Daniel's over there pounding on Daryl and I'm hitting, John. And then, so that ends up, that's done and over, whatever. And my ex-wife comes home. She's like, you had blood all over your shirt. Yeah, but I'm not bleeding. John was, and of course Daryl's version, that was our Matt's version, was probably when he was hiding in his race car when his tires fell off and he was crying. Mm. Yeah, we got
Don't hold back.
Oh no, it's funny. Oh no, no. So seriously though, when he first started racing, they got him a mini stock, and he went out on the track. Remember, he went out on the track. He was like 16. He goes out on the track and his tires fall off. Well, then John screaming at him, made him sit in the truck. And so he's in the truck crying. So we're kind of laughing, it is what it is. But
the lug nuts were not tight?
They weren't tight. And that was his job.
You had one job.
But there's been a lot of times like that out there you see, and not just them, Yeah. Because I get along with John really well.
Yeah.
Matt, not so much. But John, I get along with really well. John's always, he's a nice guy, but I've had some incidents out there, here and there. I don't like to.
So it appears of the two, Tommy is the calmer one.
No,
here?
not close.
No. He's pretty quiet over here.
Yeah, no, not even close.
Let's hear it. Let's hear some Tommy Wynd stories. Were you winding them up and throwing them, or what were we doing here?
There's a couple. I usually would settle it on the track. If it happened on the track, I would try to leave it on the track. If it carried over in the pits, it carried over in the pits. A lot of times it wouldn't, but we were talking earlier that one time, you've had Claire incident.
Oh, yeah.
Claire, I think it was a heat race or something, and Claire's a nice guy. He's, if you needed parts, something, he'd be there. He'd be there to help you. And I remember he got into me in the heat race, and it screwed the toe up on the car. So we're over on the tech pad, and I'm under there, and we're trying to set the toe. And he comes over there, and he's got a piece of fried chicken. And he goes, "Hey, man, I got some chicken. You want some chicken?" And all I did was look at him and said, "Get out of here before you.
It was a peace offering.
Yeah.
and it was in a weird way.
And, you know, and he did. I don't think he realized. You know, I was pissed off. You know,
He brought you a piece of chicken.
He brought me a
instead
piece
of
of
tie
chicken.
rod, but, you know.
Yeah. And I was like, you know, I said, you know, and at the end of the night, you know, I told him, hey, I'm, you know, it's just frustrated. You know?
No.
And he goes, no, I wouldn't do it on purpose. And, you know, and that's what everybody's, oh, no, I'm not going to do it.
So now that Claire's come up, let's talk about the incident.
Okay, so
The punch heard around the world.
So we talked
or
about
at
it
least around
earlier.
the coastal bend.
So Steve Grants had told Claire to not give up room on a racetrack, you know. And like I said, he would, you know, you're getting the gravel off your tires because you really ain't scuffing the tires or street tires, you know. And I'd bought that car from Claire, and we had qualified, and I out-qualified Claire on and that Camaro he had was pretty damn nice. Mm-hmm. And I'd out-qualified him in a car that I'd only had like 2 weeks. I had to change the whole car because it was kind of jacked up. But anyway, so we redrew somehow, and I ended up on the outside of him. So, you know, he moved down. I got in about the middle of the track, and, you know, well, you got room, I got room. Well, he decided he wanted me to move up. Well, I wasn't moving up. Well, he hit me once, so I spun him into the infield. Owen told him, you know, basically get your butt back out there. So I was really shocked that we started up there. Well, Greg Jr. and them were behind us. Greg Jr. and Senior were behind us. And I look in my mirror, and they're backed way off. And I'm like laughing. I'm like, yeah, this is funny, you know. So did it again. I spun him again. We took off. I cleared him. Good to go. You know, I ain't got to deal with this fool no more. Bill Stevens spun. Caution came out. Like, oh, man, you know, here we go again. Well, the next time, you know, he laid into me. I just laid back into him and turned us both into the wall. Then, you know, that was, I wasn't mad. You know, I got out, let his window down, opened his shield, and hit him in the face a couple of times. You know, just to let him know, hey, you know, don't, you know, I'm not going to, and I wasn't even mad. And that's what was funny about it. You know, it was just one of those, hey, dude, you know, cut your crap.
It was an attention getter.
And Owen.
You got his attention.
Yeah. And then, like I said, Owen was, you know, they get our cars apart, and Claire takes off to the pits. And Owen's, you know, I'm driving down the back straightaway, and Owen's telling me, you know, get over here to the infield because he knew if I went in the pits, it was going to get ugly. And I'm like, you know, and I'm going down the back straightaway, car wobbling on 3 flats. But I was going to, you know, but it kind of ended there. Other than, you know, like I say, next week I crapped the water pump, and here comes Claire with the water pumping gaskets. How are you mad at that guy? You
No
know
chicken
what I mean?
leg, though.
No chicken leg.
For a chicken leg.
No, and then Grants says, you know, that next week I went over there because Tommy and Grants and Claire, they all parked right there together. And I go over there, and Grant says, you know, it's my fault, right? Why? Well, I told him, don't give anybody any extra room. He goes, but I didn't mean Sam. You know?
Anybody but Sam.
Yeah, because I mean, I hold my ground. I don't care. You know, I mean, if you want to tear my car up, you know, we'll tear them up. I mean, it's okay. I'll fix mine. That was my hardest thing when I started racing for Dan. Dan's deal was, hey, I need to talk to you. Well, why? You know, so actually how it started was Lee worked for Dan, and Lee calls me and says, hey, Dan wants you at the track. For what? And I said, hey, man, I don't work for Dan. He ain't gonna yell at me. You know what I mean? And I tell Dan this because it was funny as hell. And I said, okay. And I go over there, and I'm like, what do you want? You know, because I'm thinking, because Dan, his temper is sometimes, when it comes to race cars, you know, he don't want you doing stupid stuff with him. And they said, well, you know, I do need to talk to you. Oh, shit. And I said, what's up? He goes, well, if you're not going to drive that car like it's yours, don't drive it. What are you talking about? He goes, you don't drive that car like you drove your car. You know, if you want to, however you want to drive it, that's how you drive it. If it gets tore up, we build a new one. After that, it was on, you know? I mean.
That was his attitude.
Yeah. I mean, and he.
All or nothing.
Yeah. And that's still his attitude. You know, I mean, you either get in it to win it or you don't, you know? We got blamed for the stuff with Matt. You know, supposedly both, they were Dan's cars. And, you know, I mean, Tommy had his own car. I had, you know, my car, Dan's car, but it was mine.
Yeah.
And, but there's been a lot of fun stuff.
Entertainment.
You know, I've got chased guys around. I've had security come tell me I had to go home. I've had Donnie Yoakum Sr. cuss me out, you know, which was entertaining. You know, I mean, but I raced there from what? So 92 till, I guess, when Owen went to the dirt track. I think I ran all the way to that, which was what, 2000. Gary Perry and Owen got the dirt track.
6 or 7.
6 or 7.
Yeah, somewhere in there.
And then I quit till 13.
You want to tell us a little story about you and Mr. Perry?
Well, Depends on which one, because me and Gary had a lot of fun.
Let's talk about the jump. We'll go with the jump.
Okay, so Owen had the track, and they were doing the monster truck show. So we did the motor hockey. Monster truck tire in the middle of the track, had 4 cars. So Gary Perry wanted to ride with me. So I'm like, hey, let's go, So Betty Sue didn't really like that situation a whole lot, but Gary,
I wonder why.
he got in the car, and I mean, we were destroying stuff. We were running into each other, tearing stuff up. Well, I told Owen the second night, hey, I want to jump the monster truck jump. And the monster truck guys were all for it because we had the guy from Bigfoot, Dan Runke, and all them guys, and they were like, dude, that's awesome. They wanted us to go with them on their shows. They said it was the best motor hockey they'd seen because we were retarded.
Was that the night that Dr. Danger was there and blew himself up in the box?
No.
That was a whole different
whole different deal. Oh, well, because, we'd have blew him up. Yeah. But so I tell, I don't want to do it, so they moved the monster trucks up for me. And I'm going to go do it. Well, Gary Perry says, I'm going to go. I'm like,
what are we driving?
It's a 4-door Buick LeSabre with no cage. All the glass is still in it. All you got is your seat belt, your lap belt, and a helmet on, and a fire jacket. You had to make it look like you had your fire suit on, so you had a fire jacket. And so we go around through turn 1 as fast as this car would go, making the turn in 3 to make that turn to hit that jump right there in the middle of 3 and 4. So we go across it, we jump it, car goes up. Car comes down, nose first hits. I get in the gas and to miss the pile of cars because I don't want to hit that pile of cars. And I look over and Gary Perry's eyes are like that. And he's like, and I'm like in tears laughing.
This just happened.
Oh, yeah. And then, of course, he got out pretty quick and Betty Sue was mad at us.
You made Mama mad.
Oh, yeah. But me and Gary, we hung out a lot.
Yeah.
We went down to.
He's a good man.
They had a cabin in Baffin. Me and Gary would go fishing in Baffin all the time. I mean, that old man right there was a blast.
Oh, yeah.
Me and Tommy hung out with him a bunch, too. But, we went to go fishing in Baffin. And, Chuck knows all these things. So, Gary was like he used really fine tackle. Let's put it that way. Well, so I showed up with this giant tackle box and like a Pin 309 and a setup to fish on the bottom.
Yeah.
And I throw it in the boat, and he looks at me, what are you doing? We're not fishing like that shit, and I had that and I went and got my real stuff out of there, And we go down there, but we would eat chicken legs on the way to the track all the time because they opened that Stripes on the corner there, But old man Perry was he was a character.
Yeah,
he was a fun man.
I had a good time with him. I have a few of my own Gary Perry stories, but we'll talk about those at a different time. But rivalries at the track. Obviously, you guys are friends. I'm sure y'all wanted to outrun each other. But who was your biggest rivalry? Who was the guy that you wanted to beat or had to beat every time you rolled into that gate out there, Tommy? Who was your guy?
Carlucci Jr.
That was the one, huh? And for any particular reason other than he was the top dog at the time, or what was the?
He was probably the best. When we raced, it was him. He was him. When Owen had the track, I think senior and junior both were running in a class, so you had to, you didn't have one, you had 2 of them,
So that made the challenge even better.
Yeah, and what's funny is we'd have our incidents on the track, get mad, pissed off, or yell at each other, whatever. But at the end of the night, we were across the street drinking beer,
having a good time.
Yeah, having a good time, and that to me that was fun, You can get mad when you're racing, but afterwards you're still good.
I mean, hell, Tommy knocked the fuel cell out of my car one night, and we still drank beer afterwards.
Yeah,
it happens.
Yeah, and the incident was innocent, but I went in under him and he didn't see me there, and I locked up the brakes. As John Witchy's like, hey, it wasn't his fault. I'm like, yeah, I locked up the brakes. Well, I spun Tommy, and we really honestly on the track tried to stay away from. Because we're both going to get pissed off.
Yeah.
And so he come up behind me going down the back straightaway, and I had that Monte Carlo, and he literally lit. And, Owen goes, and I didn't know how bad it was, right? Because I didn't have a lot back there, because And Owen's like, hey, you got to go in. Why? Your fuel cell's hanging out. Like, what? And it wasn't that he hit me that hard. It was that I didn't have a bunch of stuff back there.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, shit. Well, okay, after the races, we still drank beer and had fun. It is what it is.
Did he help you load your fuel cell?
No, I was hanging there. I mean, it went on the trailer, But there's always been, like saying Greg Jr. was the guy to beat.
Yes.
He was
Who was the man to beat before Greg showed up?
Dan, Chuck, Larry, Bruce.
See, because Greg had to earn that title. Greg had to earn the.
Greg Jr. started out fast.
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't step into losing. You know what I mean? His first year, he was fast. You know, and then he just became. He was a natural. You know, he had natural talent, and he'd been around it all his life. You know, he was just, and he's just. I mean, a good racer.
Yeah.
I mean, like, you know, the Greg Sr., we built him a car. We got it from Chuck Perry, actually, a dirt car Chuck had. We built Greg Sr. a car at my house. And so we had my car, Greg Jr.'s car, and Greg Sr.'s car was outside the garage and building that car. And the very first race that he raced that car, you know, we're teammates, you know, whatever. And
Or Outlaw Racing? Is that what it was?
Yeah.
Outlaw Racing? Yeah.
And to win a heat race, he went through the grass and doored me on the last lap to win a heat race.
A win is a win.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I'm like, dude, you ripped the door half off my car for a heat race? Well, I mean, you know, I'm like laughing. I'm like, holy crap. He ain't playing. He wants to win, you know? You know?
A win is a win.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But, I mean, he's a hardcore racer. I mean, you know, like I used to have on my cars, of course, the first one I put the deal on was a car Chuck had. Luch here. I put a target on the quarter panel. You know, but Gregory made that happen. Greg Sr. was rough. Greg Jr. was more finesse.
Yeah.
You know, he'd get you loose and shove you up the track. Greg
that's
Sr.
where it came from. He got looched.
Yeah,
like
Greg
that.
Sr. would run you over.
He refined it.
Yeah, really, really bad. But the first few years, I mean, when I raced, all them guys were in hobby stock, and we were in pure stock, street stock, whatever they were calling it at the time. And then when they did away with Camaros in pure stock, Donnie went and said, okay, you can't have a Camaro in this lower class anymore. So I had to move up. So then I had to race with Bruce, Larry, Chuck, you know.
Made you step up your game a little bit?
Yeah, I had to.
Yeah.
I didn't have a choice. I mean, it was that or run last, and I don't like running last.
What do you think it took back then to have a competitive car in those classes?
Knowledge.
Dollar-wise? Yeah.
The most expensive motor I built was about $5,500 back then, and it was a Sanders built motor.
Yeah.
And then, but car wise, you just had to have it turning. You know, but you know, you could have an inexpensive car and be fast. Dan Monroe was proof of that. Dan Monroe didn't have a lot of money.
Yeah.
And he didn't have a lot of, you know, back then he didn't have the top of the line stuff like some of them guys, and he won a lot of races, but he built a lot of his stuff.
Yeah. The hands-on stuff.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it's all about, you know, back then it was, you know, you could have a good motor and a shitty handling car. And I mean, you know, when you figured it out, like me, that was my most frustrating thing, was figuring it out.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I didn't want, like Bruce and Ricky Sennard, you know, because when I first started racing, like I said, I was married to his ex-sister-in-law. They offered, you know, hey, do this, do that. Or, you know, bring it, hey, and we'll look at it. Well, I didn't want that. I wanted hands-on to do it myself so that I learned it. And I learned it because I researched. You can ask Tommy, man, I used to have every magazine you could have.
Oh, yeah.
I'd get online. I would find anything and everything. If it said that this worked for a 3/8 mile track, I would refine it to a 1/4 mile track, and I would make it work. And if it didn't work, okay, well, it didn't hurt to try it, you know.
You felt like you had at least given it a shot and tried it out.
You know, matter of fact, I sold that Camaro to Troy Vela because I was tired of it. There was no challenge left in that car. I mean, it was fast enough that any night I could win. You know, there was the ones that I felt like all the time you had to race against, you know, was Tommy, Greg Jr., Greg Sr. Chuck's cars were pretty fast most of the time. Chuck Perry.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know, his cars were pretty fast.
I think Eddie Ross was running with
Eddie Ross, you know, nicest dude in the world. You know, he wrecked me one night driving. He wrecks me. In Chuck's car, matter of fact, I was driving
Did
that
he bring
black
you a
car.
chicken leg?
No. You know, I was mad enough when I got out of the car, I was going to pop Eddie.
No.
And I got over there and I couldn't hit Eddie Ross.
I say, how could anybody be mad at Eddie Ross?
He knew it. He told me too. Oh, I knew it was coming. And I could not hit Eddie Ross. I just had to walk away. I was like, what do? You can't hit Eddie.
No.
You know, he's that guy right there is a nice guy.
No.
Yeah, he wrecked me pretty good though.
he was a nice guy.
Yeah. There was 6 or 7 fast cars, and that was really about kind of almost it.
Yeah.
There wasn't, 10 fast cars then or 15 fast
No, it
cars.
was a handful of them.
Yeah, a handful, and then a lot of what do you call them, field fielders. We had maybe 15 cars, but and you try to help the other guys, and to get their cars, to where they're running decent, handling decent.
Well, a gentleman told me years ago, I was complaining about another car running in my class, and he was always in the way, and I was wrecking people. And he told me, you sure talk a lot of shit, but you're not willing to help them. Yeah. And I was like, oh man, that spoke volumes. And he told me that years ago, over 20 years ago, and I still remember that today. And this shop is full of cars that I offered people to help because I remember what he told me.
Yeah. And that's the truth, because I won't mention names, but so I was helping Chuck.
Just do car numbers. Nobody knows.
Yeah, no, I won't do that either. I was helping Chuck, and because I met Chuck at the, he started racing, and I met him, out there. He was a tanky at the refinery.
Yeah.
And that's how I met Chuck. Well, I started helping him work on his cars, and I kind of got a little grief from a couple people. And I said, look, man, the way my theory on it is, if you're sideways in front of me, I can't get by you with safely.
Right.
But if I can help you get your car to where you can drive it straight, I can get by you easier. I don't have to fight to get by you, or worry about you tearing my car up. So Chuck at first, he didn't know nothing about racing, And we became really good friends, and I helped him on his cars a bunch. And Chuck's cars got fast. He bought that dot car, and all those cars became fast.
Yeah.
But I got a little bit of grief for helping.
No, that happens. It happens.
But to me, like I say,
Chuck can drive.
Yeah.
It's just he'll get past, and it's like he'll get frustrated.
Yeah.
And then starts going back, but
it's part of it. It's part of racing. We all get that. Oh, that sumbitch passed me. Got to get back in the gas. Got to drive it in deeper. And we should have let off 8 links ago.
Oh yeah.
We've all been there.
Oh yeah.
I've hit the wall at CC Speedway. I'm sure both of you guys have tried to knock it down too. I just did it in a much smaller car, but at the same time, it still hurt.
Well, it would. I had that Monte Carlo I bought from Claire, and it was a challenge because I had always had the Camaro I had for 10 or 11 years.
Yeah.
So I had to learn this Monte Carlo. Well, I did a lot of research. Talked to Rander Car because they were big back then, on the metric cars, and did some setup. Got the car. I could go in so deep in that car that it felt like the car was going to spin out. The whole time I'm thinking, man, I'm fixing a wreck. But the trick was bail in, let off, and then stab it again, and the car bit for some reason.
Yeah.
And me and John Kaminsky got into a wreck. I went back around him on the outside. Well, he didn't know I was there. He came up, and I ended up stuffing him in a fence. And Dan put me to the back. I'm like, hey, I didn't do this. Well, John was mad. And the next week after seeing the video, he goes, dude, I had no clue you were there. I don't know where the hell you came from.
Videos by Donna.
Yeah.
Yep.
Videos by Donna.
The best video replay that I ever got was with John Witchy.
Really?
I was running my that Cutlass that I had got from Diem, and John Witchy was behind me, and he spun me on the start of the race. And we had 25, 30 cars in that class at that time. So I was a pinball. So, I was everywhere, and I looked down the hood of my car, and the whole front clip is over like that. Well, I had a flat. Well, I'm telling my brother, put a tire on my car. And Darden was the pit steward then. He said, no. Yeah, dude, let him put a tire. I'm going to wreck that mother. And I didn't care. I was friends with John and them, but I was going to wreck him. And so after the race, I'm telling John, a little bit of grief. And John says, wasn't me. Okay, let's go. We go up there, and Donna's got the video booth. And I said, hey, Donna, can you show us this? Yeah. John, we need to find that son of a that's driving your car because he wrecked my shit. John's all like, man,
replay.
Yeah. He's like, man, I didn't. Yeah, it was you.
Instant replay. All right, we're going to start winding this down, but I want to ask a couple things from each one of y'all. What is the greatest takeaway that you got from CC Speedway? And by that, what is one of the biggest things you learned there? Was it really about racing? Was it really about the people? Was it really about just the atmosphere? What was your biggest takeaway from CC Speedway?
I would have to say the atmosphere and the racing. You had to race there. You had to be up on the wheel all the time. And it was just a lot of things about that place. I mean, the guys you race with, the fans. I mean, the fans love the show.
They're almost cultish to an extent where like they had their people.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, you'd sit up in the stands like one night I think I don't remember if me and Greg got suspended one night. It's when Owen had the track, and we couldn't race that night, so we could go to the races. And I went up and sat in the stands.
And y'all sat together probably?
No. I think he might have been. I think he was with the fire department at the time or something. Maybe he had to work or something. But I sat up in the stands, and I didn't sit up in the stands that much. We were always in the pits working on the cars, and you could hear the different, like somebody would win in whatever class, and you can hear the people over here, and it's like a lot of people are into it.
Yeah.
The racing there, and people that I talk to. People that I don't even know, I'll have a racing shirt or something, on it. They said, you race? I said, no, I used to. You race that track on C-Speed? Yeah. I said, yeah. I said, oh, man, we used to go there, back
all the time.
Long time ago.
All the time, yeah.
Oh, yeah. And they said,
I usually get two answers in this town. Either I used to go there all the time or I didn't know we had a racetrack.
Exactly.
It is one
or the other.
It's exactly what it is.
Talking about the competition, though, back then, Bill Stevens' car was fast.
Yeah.
And he drove it with one arm.
Bill had a Wayne Norrell built car. And even in his Camaro was fast, but the Wayne Norrell built car was
That was a good car.
Was fast.
What was your greatest takeaway from the Speedway, Sam?
Friendships.
Yeah.
I made a lot of friends, and I made a lot of acquaintances that became like really good friends. Like with me and Dan. Me and Dan, when we raced together, we didn't hang out. Dan offered me a car when he bought the track. I seen him at Harbor Freight. I hadn't raced in like 6 years, and Dan offered me hey, come drive my cars, man. Well, why? Because, man, you can drive, And now, and me and Dan, our personalities are pretty close. So, you would always think we'd, have conflict.
Not so much.
It's usually the friends, the friendships I made there. And I had a lot of good memories and a lot of fun, and that's the hardest thing. Because, when you go back and you see the track in the state it's in now, and you're just like, man, this sucks. I grew up there. I had a lot of fun there. I made a lot of friends there.
Those memories are never gone, but the track is.
Yeah, the memories never go away. And I still talk to, a lot of the people that, that I raced with or, that I hung out with back then.
Yeah.
But it's different,
Well, let's talk about that. So, as I said, you met Dan. You did a lot of racing with Dan, acquaintancing with Dan, but now you're actually working with Dan to help Anthony. In his racing program. So let's touch a little bit on what Sam is doing now, since Sam's not racing full time. The Speedway's gone. You're doing Sam now. So tell us a little bit about what Sam does now, and how the bond with Anthony and them has grown. We'll use that word loosely.
Yeah. When I'd got out of racing for a long time, and then when I got back into it, it was with Cody Limerick. He was my son-in-law at the time. Well, Dan kept offering me to drive his cars, and me and Dan never really butted heads for some weird reason, but once I started driving Dan, or going back to the track in 2013, we started hanging out a lot, and then I lost, Cody started driving the car again and then so I started hanging out with Dan. Well, now, we go race in Houston. We went to Alabama. We've been to the Snowball Derby a few times. We take the truck. I do Dan's brains. I'm partial brains, and I do 99% of the labor on the truck. And I enjoy it. I mean,
this is an asphalt like pro truck type deal?
Asphalt pro truck. Crate motor. Did
you think when you and Dan were racing side by side at CC Speedway that y'all would ever be traveling across the country doing a pro truck scenario?
I never pictured it. I have people that tell me that it's crazy. Because they're like, I just don't see y'all, as friends like we are. And me and Dan are really good friends. I mean, there ain't nothing in the world I wouldn't do for Dan and Candy and Anthony. I mean, they could call me at any time, and I'm going to go run and do it. And I would for any of my friends, But they're people that, they're genuine, man. They've helped a lot of people.
Well, they're not just friends. Sounds like they're family.
Yeah, they are. I mean, it's a lot of respect. Like Dan has he ran into Bill Stevens not too long ago, and he's telling Bill, if it wasn't for Sam, we wouldn't be racing. I couldn't do this without all the help he does and this. And that made me feel good. That's a lot of respect. And me and Dan were talking about it the other day, and it's just mutual respect. I mean, we go out of town and it's 110 degrees over there, and I'm old. I ain't young no more.
And you're the out of towners, but I
Yeah.
assume there's other out of towners too. So
There's a bunch. Most of the
Yeah.
people from Houston that race there are out of town. The Snowball Derby. I know you've had to have been there.
I have not been to the Snowball Derby.
Man, you got to do that. That atmosphere is unreal. That's probably the closest thing to a big, like the Stock Car Spectacular in Corpus. That's the closest thing to that type of atmosphere. There's so many people, so many race cars. And like we go all the way over there, stay 4 or 5 days, and race one night, one race, one practice, and one race.
It's just the ambiance. It's just
Yeah.
being there.
You get tired of race cars though.
No, I could see that.
Late models going around for 8 hours.
Makes for a long trip.
Yeah.
Until
But
it's your time to shine, then it's all worth it.
But it's fun, and I spot for Anthony, which like he would rather me spot than anybody else. So would Dan.
It's entertaining.
Well, I calm him down, because he will get.
I can just imagine being like a sitcom on this spotters deal.
It
Like, I
truly
really
is.
do.
It truly, so it truly is because being up there on a spotter deal, right? So you got all the spotters, and Anthony runs into somebody or somebody runs into Anthony. We won't blame Anthony for everything because it ain't always his fault.
But he is holding the steering wheel.
But he is holding the steering wheel. So he'll get in a little confrontation with somebody on the track. Well, their spotter wants to talk crap. Well, like I told Dan, they go on the drag side over there and watch from the other side of the track. And I always tell Dan, well, if something happens there and you see somebody fall off the spotter stand, they didn't fall, I threw them.
Just going to make that clear now. That way there's no questions.
There's no questions, But I'm old, man. But we're gonna continue to race until one of us gets tired of it.
Cool deal. And Tommy, what are we doing now? What's Tommy Wynd doing?
Working and fishing. That's it.
Fishing is taking up the racing void.
Yep.
Boat? Got a boat, the whole deal? Or are we just fishing off a dock, or what are we doing?
Boat, whole deal.
Is it just a boat, or is it a jet boat? I can't imagine you just got a regular old boat.
No, it's just a regular old boat.
Come on now.
Yep.
Yeah, but he goes mudding.
Mud, huh? What are we doing?
Side by sides.
Okay.
Yeah, something different.
Where are you doing that at?
We go all over. Go to a place in Houston, Floresville.
So the adrenaline is still there.
I think in April, we're going to go to Louisiana.
Really?
All the way over there.
All right.
Deal. I want to get back in racing, maybe.
I don't know. That side stuff sounds kind of fun.
That's
the
expensive.
fun never goes
I don't know
away.
which is worse, the side by side or racing. They're pretty expensive.
You got one of them giant ones with the weird big tires on it, the whole deal?
No, not quite that
No?
big.
All right.
No.
Yeah, the fun never goes away though.
No, I think it's just the adrenaline. I love these cars, don't get me wrong, but sometimes I'm like, man, I wonder if I would want to do something different, but I've never done anything different.
Right.
I tried. I walked away for like 7 years and thought, you know what? I'm done. Well, when Cody got that car, and it was actually what's his name? The one that built Fancy?
Oh, yes,
Kyle
Whitworth. Kyle Whitworth.
And it was actually
He
Kyle's
still
first.
has the car.
Cody Limerick
Yes.
does, yeah. That was the first car.
Yeah.
And I helped him a little bit with it. Well, he got in a boat wreck. Pat, his dad says, hey, you want to drive the car? Man, I ain't drove, So I was like, and the minute I got in it, that was it. It was hooked again. It was like,
The car's
holy,
still sitting there behind the shop.
rotting to the ground.
I had to mow the grass, so he had my dad's old car, the last car that I actually built from the ground up. I thought it had been crushed.
Oh,
but
I know what car you're talking about.
It ended up being at Limerick shop, so I made a deal with him, but I ended up mowing the grass and cutting trees down to get the car out of there.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, no, it was an ordeal.
Yeah, I know what car that is.
But we got it. I finally got it back. I had been told the car was crushed completely, but no, we got it back. So
Nah,
that's
Cody,
pretty
they
cool.
don't get rid of nothing.
No, I was told by multiple folks that they were never going to sell it, but I think me mowing the grass and cutting the trees down was the.
His dad is a hell of a nice guy, man.
No,
That
they're
is-
good folks.
Yeah, did you see inside the shop?
I didn't go inside. No,
His
sir.
dad has-
all of my magic was done outside.
His dad has late models.
I played Tetris outside, literally.
Oh, yeah. I've been there one time. That's
Yeah.
how it was. They had the shop open. I was like, I think he had an old Ford pickup in there
Yeah, oh
or
yeah.
something.
He's got some neat
I was
stuff.
like, wow, how do you even get around in here?
Yeah,
Do anything?
that car was fast.
Crazy.
That car was fast.
Man, we got about 2 minutes left. Is anything else you guys want to talk about? Let us know some stuff. Anything?
No, I appreciate being on here, man. It's kind of cool, I mean, it brings up some stuff that, I don't really think about a lot anymore, I mean, CC Speedway is a place that holds a big place in my heart. I mean, it was a fun place.
It holds a lot of weight here in the Coastal Bend area. People just don't get to hear all the stories anymore, and that's kind of why I do this deal. Is even if it's just a story or two that somebody hasn't heard, that it gets to get out there, and hopefully the right ears get to hear it. I mean, that's what we're trying to do here. So I appreciate y'all's time and efforts to get out here and Thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for having us on the show. It's been fun.
Yes.
Cool deal.
Something different. A lot more stories later.
Yep.
Thanks,
Another
guys.
time.
Yeah, thank you.
As the checker flag flies, on this first episode of Season 2, I would like to thank Tommy Wynd and Sam Duncan for coming on this exciting show. I would also like to take a moment to thank our sponsors, ProLane Fabrication, 112 Bodies, Top Hat Signs and Designs, and of course, S&S Monuments.